I'm sorry, I'm Harper, the wife of Michael who works there. Could you please call my husband? I said that, but the woman on the phone, sounding confused, replied, "We don't have anyone by that name."
What? What do you mean?
My name is Harper, a 32-year-old housewife. My husband Michael is 34, 2 years older than me. We've been married for 3 years. Our married life is good, and I trust my husband very much. He's a lawyer and leads a busy life, often coming home late because of work. We got married when I was 29. When we were dating, our parents were strongly opposed to our marriage. That was because I was doing well in my career. They were also worried because I hadn't had good relationships with men until then. Harper always ends up with the wrong guys. But he's a lawyer. He has a stable job, he's older, and he's dependable. Even after meeting him, I just can't trust him. I didn't understand why my parents were against our marriage. But I wanted to trust my instincts. So, I went against my parents' opposition and married him. Michael welcomed me warmly, and we started living together right away. Since our parents were against it, we started our married life without a wedding ceremony. After getting married, Michael asked me to quit my full-time job, so I followed his advice and resigned. Since then, I've been working part-time, waiting for him to come home. Michael's work is really busy, often requiring him to stay overnight. Since our honeymoon phase, he's been working a lot, which was unexpected. I thought I could have a fun married life with my kind husband. Apparently, Michael often has clients far away and says he needs to stay overnight for work. At first, I simply believed his story, but I've started to feel lonely. I'm not one to overthink things, and I trust and love him wholeheartedly. I used to be very interested in his work and listen to his stories, but recently, there are more nights when he doesn't come home. While I feel proud of his competence, enduring the loneliness of being alone is tough. Although I have an optimistic side, I also prefer to have someone by my side. That's why during college, I was always with friends, actively participating in various club activities and mixers. I sometimes reminisce about how fun those times were. As an only child, I was raised with a lot of love from my parents. Having married against their wishes, I can't just go back to them saying I'm lonely now. To distract myself from the loneliness, I volunteer for shifts and overtime whenever available at my part-time job, trying to reduce my alone time.
What? You're working late again?
When I sometimes angrily call him, he coldly replies, "You know it's work. Stop being selfish." He used to be kinder. He used to make a lot of time for me. Unable to bear it, I sometimes sent a message on WhatsApp saying, "I'm lonely, I want you to come home soon. I'll cook a delicious meal, so just tell me when you'll be back." But he would say, "Stop bothering me with this, it's interfering with my work." Recently, his visits home have become very infrequent, only once a week or even once every 2 weeks. It's like he's on a long-term business trip. I'm incredibly lonely because of this. That's why I've been working almost full-time lately. When I come home, exhausted, I do the housework and then collapse into bed like a log. This has been my daily routine. When we were dating, Michael wasn't this busy. Why has he been so work-obsessed since we got married? I want him to be by my side more. But even if I feel that way alone, I have no choice but to endure it if he refuses my calls and messages. Unless there's something special, he doesn't contact me. One day, as usual, I was working late and got home late. Even though I stayed late at work, Michael doesn't come home, so when I get back, I'm alone. Feeling very lonely, I left the office and headed home. The apartment I live in is a 10-minute walk from the nearest station. It's in a residential area, but there are some parts without streetlights, which can be a bit scary. Some nearby houses have been demolished and the land is up for sale, making it look like the darkness has swallowed something. There's always a fear of not knowing what might jump out. So, I always walk quickly through that part. Lately, I've been thinking about buying a bicycle. You never know what might happen. And that day, my fear became reality. An incident happened. By the time I left the station, it was already past 10 p.m. I felt particularly exhausted that day. My job involves office work for an event planning company, but during busy times, I also help with setup and cleanup on site. It requires a lot of physical strength. Today, I was helping prepare for a large festival, carrying equipment and supplies, and running around to coordinate with the event staff. Because of that, my legs and body were extremely tired. Dragging my heavy legs, I felt a presence behind me. When I stopped, the presence also stopped, and when I started walking, it followed. After repeating this several times, I realized someone was following me. I need to run. But my legs were too heavy to move as I wanted. When I tried to run, my exhausted legs wouldn't cooperate. Sensing my sluggish movements, the person behind me quickly closed the distance. When I turned around in shock, a small person was raising something in the air. I instinctively knew I was about to be hit, so I protected my head with my left arm. A sharp pain shot through my elbow. I looked and saw a bat had struck my arm. Losing my balance, I fell to the ground. My bag scattered. The attacker raised the bat again, aiming to strike me. What should I do? If I'm hit again, I won't be able to bear it. In my panic, my hand touched my phone, which had fallen out of my bag. Desperately, I pressed the camera shutter. The flash, set to go off automatically at night, blinded the attacker. From the lock screen, I could quickly access the flashlight or camera, either of which would have helped. The important thing was to blind the attacker, even for a moment. That's when I realized the attacker was a woman. I had a feeling based on her build. As she got closer, I noticed a familiar scent. It was a mix of her shampoo and, for some reason, the same scent as my husband. Instinctively, I muttered, "Is that Michael's scent?" The woman threw the bat away and quickly ran off. The bat rolled on the ground. I sat there for a while, unable to move. My arm hurt intensely from the blow. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, I called the police with a trembling voice. As I sat there waiting, a police car and an ambulance arrived. The police assessed the situation and called for an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor examined me and said, "This is definitely a fracture."
A fracture?
I was shocked. Had she hit me that hard?
Normally, it would heal in a few days, but you might be a bit malnourished. Your bones seem weak. Make sure to get plenty of calcium and sunlight.
He gave me some advice. The pain increased, so I was given a painkiller injection. My job is office work. Will that be okay? I asked. If you keep it in a cast, you'll be fine. But you might develop a fever, so stay in the hospital tonight and tomorrow. Reluctantly, I stayed in the hospital. It was late, and honestly, I was scared to go home alone. The next morning, I explained the situation to my company and got 3 days off.
A fracture? That's serious. Given the circumstances, you need to rest. Take care.
My boss said, surprised but understanding. However, due to accumulated fatigue, my fever didn't go down, and I ended up spending 4 days in the hospital. When I told my husband over the phone, he was concerned but didn't seem like he would come to pick me up.
You got attacked on your way home? I wish I could come right away, but I'm swamped with work. But you're safe in the hospital. Just rest up.
He sounded so busy when he said that. As he was about to hang up, I panicked and asked,
"So, when are you coming back? Just tell me that much."
"Idiot, I have a lot of cases piled up. I don't know until I get through them. I really can't talk now. I'm hanging up, and don't send any unnecessary messages." With that, he hung up, leaving me speechless. Lying in my hospital bed, suffering from a fever, I kept thinking, why is my husband so busy? When my fever went down a bit, I decided to call my husband's law firm. I probably took this action because I wasn't feeling well. In my feverish state, I somehow managed to search for and find the name of the law firm in the city. When I called, a woman answered, "Hello, this is the Stewart Law Firm."
I'm sorry, I'm Harper Stewart, the wife of Michael who works there. Could you please call my husband?
I said that, but the woman on the phone, sounding confused, replied, "We don't have anyone by that name."
What? What do you mean?
I asked with a trembling voice. "I mean, my husband works there. I'm his wife," I explained. The woman, in a lower voice, said, "Let's talk later. My name is Nova Stewart. I'll call you back, so please give me your number." Feeling a bit uneasy with her calm voice, I gave her my number. 15 minutes later, the phone rang again.
Hello, is this Harper Stewart's number? Yes. I'm Nova Stewart, Michael Stewart's wife. Could you please tell me the name on your insurance card?
Nova suddenly asked.
The name on my insurance card? It's Harper Williams.
When I answered, Nova took a deep breath.
Harper, please listen carefully. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Nova Stewart, Michael Stewart's real wife. What is going on here?
I was shocked into silence by her statement.
Wait, what do you mean? Please calm down, Harper. First, tell me why you called our office. What happened?
I'm sorry.
Actually, last night, I was hit with a bat on my way home from work, and my arm got broken.
I heard her gasp on the other end.
And I got a fever, so I'm currently in the hospital. Hit with a bat, that's terrible. Is your arm okay? They said it would be fine if I keep it in a cast, but I'm also overworked and have a fever, so I'm hospitalized. Nova, are you saying my husband and yours have the same name?
I asked her that.
Let's set that aside for now.
Nova responded calmly.
You're hospitalized due to overwork and a fever. Please take care of yourself. By the way, you said your insurance card name is Harper Williams. Is that your real name now?
Her question puzzled me.
No, I go by Harper Stewart now. Nova, what are you talking about? Sorry for the confusion. But Harper, I'd like to talk to you again after you're discharged. I need to look into something. Let's meet on your day off. This number is my personal one, so call me if anything happens.
With that, Nova hung up the phone. I couldn't understand what had happened.
What is this insurance card about?
My husband had told me to use it as it was, so I had just used it without questioning. A week later, I met Nova at the hospital.
I unexpectedly got some time off. I told my boss I was discharged, and he gave me a concerned look and said, "You're always so diligent, so take care of yourself for once. And I'm sorry we kept you working so late. Something happened on your way home because of that."
His words made me feel guilty for making everyone worry.
You must have a really busy job. Oh, no, I work voluntarily. But I'm sorry for causing problems at work. Your boss is right, you're honest and diligent, but sometimes a bit reckless. That's probably why he gets worried about you sometimes. That seems to be the case.
So, I decided to take a 10-day leave. My job involves a lot of paperwork, which requires the use of my arm. Trying to work with a cast would slow me down. Plus, I had accumulated a lot of paid leave. This seemed like a good opportunity to use it. When I told Nova about this, she suggested meeting at the hospital. We then left the hospital in her car and headed to a cafe for our discussion. The cafe had separated tables, making it hard for conversations to be overheard even if we raised our voices a bit. Nova started the conversation again.
Let's properly introduce ourselves. I'm Nova Stewart, Michael Stewart's wife. We've been married for 10 years and work at the same law firm. You said you're Michael's wife, but you're not legally married to him.
She placed a wedding photo and a copy of their marriage certificate on the table. Her earlier words echoed in my mind, confronting me with a reality I had subconsciously avoided.
Okay? Listen carefully.
Nova began to speak seriously.
I suspected my husband of having an affair for a while and investigated. Since he's a lawyer too, he was good at hiding it from me. If you're not legally married to him, then you're probably his mistress.
Her words hit me hard.
So, he only comes home once or twice a week, but he's actually going to another home? I see, that's what he told you. Yes, he has a lot of business trips, sometimes far away, so he's often not around. I understand. But honestly, he doesn't come home much to our house either. What? Really? Then where does he?
Nova sighed at my words.
Harper, when did you get married? When I was 29, so 3 years ago. I see. Are you working full-time or part-time?
Yes, I'm full-time.
As I mentioned on the phone, I'm currently on paid leave. I've accumulated a lot of it from working non-stop, and my husband is often not home when I return.
I felt very sad as I explained. I see. You've been taken in by his smooth talk. Nova said.
What do you mean by smooth talk?
Didn't you find it strange that the insurance card worked? When she said that, I took the card out of my wallet. Nova looked at it and said, I thought so.
If you're married and working part-time, you should be under Michael's insurance. But it worked fine. Is there a problem?
No, it's supposed to work.
There's no mistake. But the fact that it works means you're not part of his family. Legally speaking, you and Michael aren't married. From my perspective, you're his mistress. You're not part of his official family.
Confronted with this reality, I felt dizzy. Nova calmly held my hand and said, It's okay. Don't worry. Strangely, I didn't feel any anger towards her. No, it wasn't that. The situation just didn't seem real. I couldn't believe my husband had deceived me like this.
Honestly, you were a blind spot for me. A blind spot? I suspected someone else.
She said, pulling out her phone and opening a photo folder. She showed me one of the photos.
Wait, this is the person who hit me. What?
The woman in Nova's photo was the same person who had hit me with the bat. I hurriedly showed her the photo I had taken that night. Though it was a bit blurry, the photo showed the woman in a jacket holding a bat.
It's the same person. Good job, Harper. Should we show this to the police? Harper, who do you think is responsible for your arm being like this?
She asked me that.
This woman? Directly, yes. But I think the real cause isn't just her. So, let's hold off on telling the police about her. Can you trust me with this for a bit?
I nodded silently. I felt I had no choice but to rely on her. Another week passed, and my husband finally came home.
Welcome back. That was a long trip. I missed you.
I greeted him cheerfully, hugging him. As I did, my casted arm brushed against his chest.
Oh, this is the fracture you mentioned in your messages. Are you okay now?
I wasn't okay.
I wanted to contact you many times and send messages, but I held back as you told me to.
Actually, I got hit with a bat. I stepped back slightly as I said that.
But it's okay now. I got checked at the hospital and even called an ambulance.
I deliberately didn't mention the police.
By the way, I have new friends visiting today. Friend? That's unusual. Someone from work? No, new friends I made recently. Could you come over here? I want to introduce you.
I took my husband's hand with a smile and led him to the living room. When I opened the door, two women sitting on the sofa watching TV turned to look at us.
Everyone, my husband's home.
Welcome back, dear. You're home tonight.
What? Nova and Arya, why are you two together?
One of them was Nova. The other was Arya, the woman who attacked me. Come, have a seat, I said, gently pushing my husband into a chair with my good hand. He seemed too shocked to resist.
What are you two doing here?
Why?
We've just become friends,
Arya said, and Nova and I spoke simultaneously. Arya continued.
Listen, Michael. You always complained about how your wife treated you like crap both at work and at home. You said you wanted to hit her, so I thought I'd teach her a lesson. But what is this? Harper isn't even your wife, and I ended up breaking her arm. This is all your fault. What? You broke Harper's arm, Arya? Yeah. I went to deal with your wife for you.
So, it was Arya who attacked me. Nova had already suspected Arya and had approached her, explaining what had happened and asking for her cooperation. In return, Nova promised to defend Arya in the assault case against me.
I never asked you to do that. Did you really hit Harper with a bat, Arya? Did you think I wouldn't? Although now, I want to hit you.
Arya grinned and repeatedly punched her left palm with her right fist.
Why? Because I'm mad at being deceived by you. I feel like an idiot for falling for someone like you.
Arya spoke to him with a resigned look. And I felt the same way. I had been deceived into thinking I was his wife just because he told me we were married. Thinking back, I had only signed the marriage registration and left it to him to submit. Why didn't he want to submit it together? Of course. Because he couldn't submit it. We could never have gone together. I had been dreaming of being a couple with him, ignoring reality. That's why I didn't find it strange that the insurance card issue was off if I had investigated a bit.
Your excuses don't matter,
Nova said sharply to my trembling husband and the almost hitting Arya.
Finding Harper provided all the evidence of your affairs. I've already told Dad everything.
When she said that, my husband's face turned pale. That person must be important to him in some way.
What, seriously?
My husband exclaimed in shock.
Yes, I gathered all the evidence and presented it to my father, who trusted you. And I've taken over the rights to the firm. So, as the new CEO, I'm announcing my first decision. Michael, you're fired. And I'll be reporting your actions to the Bar Association. What are you saying? Exactly what you heard. That firm belonged to my father. You were working there as the future head, but employing someone who commits such heinous acts would damage the firm's reputation. There's no way my father would want me to stay with someone like you. So, you're going to sign this as well.
Nova placed a divorce paper on the table in front of him. Seeing this, I also spoke up.
Michael, you never even submitted our marriage certificate, right?
He looked up. Cold sweat dripping from his forehead.
Well, you never asked about it. That doesn't give you the right to deceive women everywhere. Nova, this guy works in law, doesn't he?
Yes, Arya, it's truly shameful for a colleague. Watching him squirm in front of the two women made me feel so pity. And every time I saw him looking so pathetic, I felt ashamed of myself for being fooled by a man like him. Had I really wasted all this time worrying about and waiting for such a man? As these thoughts crossed my mind, Arya's voice reached my ears. Nova, can I give him a good punch?
Well, let's think about it. If you hit him again, it'll just cause more problems. But you'll defend me, right?
Arya grinned.
Maybe that would work out.
Nova replied, and they both laughed.
Stop it, please.
My husband cried out.
What? Did you think I was going to punch you?
Arya pulled something out. It was a red and yellow can. Slightly bulging. Nova whispered to me.
Listen, Harper. As soon as Arya throws that can at him, we need to leave. What?
While we were talking, Arya turned to my husband and said, "This is a thank you for everything," and threw the bulging can at him with all her might. The can hit him and fell to the ground.
Let's go,
Nova commanded, and we rushed to the door. As we were about to close the door, we heard a loud scream from inside. We quickly shut the door. What did Arya throw?
Wow, that worked. It was expensive, but worth it,
Nova said, unable to stop laughing.
Really, I'm glad it worked. What did you throw? Oh, that? It's called surströmming, the world's stinkiest canned fish. I always wanted to try it. Never thought I'd throw it at him, though. But you made sure it would explode by leaving it at room temperature, right?
Nova asked Arya through her laughter. That must be why Nova told me to send my stuff to my parents' place beforehand.
This room will be uninhabitable for at least a month.
Hearing the word contaminated, I couldn't help but laugh from the depths of my belly. Images of my husband trying to maintain his dignity flashed through my mind and vanished.
So, Nova, I'm going to call the police now. Support me, okay?
Sure.
We need to discuss whether to press charges, and you'll join us, Harper.
Nova said.
Wait a moment.
I told them to step away from the door.
What are you doing?
Taking a deep breath, I flung the door open and shouted.
Wow! It stinks! What is this smell? I can't stay in this room anymore. I'm never coming back. You were deceiving me all along. I hate you.
I slammed the door shut. The pungent smell made me squint and cough, but for the first time in a while, I laughed heartily with the two women. Shortly after, the three of us headed to the police station. However, I had already decided to talk things through. Arya's actions were because of my husband's deceit. Sure, it was terrible, but she was also a victim. And somehow, I felt a strange sense of kinship with her. I might be seen as too forgiving, considering she hit me with a bat. But right now, the bond of being deceived by the same man was stronger. Plus, Arya's revenge on my husband was too funny. After hearing the whole story from Nova, Arya apologized to me and even offered to cover my medical expenses. Nova also assured us she wouldn't charge either of us for her legal services. In my case, I had been completely deceived into thinking I was married to him and had no knowledge of his real family.
It turns out he was just a womanizer.
Nova said. He was smooth-talking, and I fell for it. Me too. I really loved him. He exploited our feelings. We sighed together. By the way, after the can exploded in the room, the smell stuck to my husband, and he couldn't go out in public. Of course, the room where I was staying became unusable due to the can. Nova later told me that it required a level of specialized cleaning, which was quite expensive. In addition, he was hit with a hefty bill for divorce due to his infidelity. There's also the matter of the bar association that Nova mentioned when she fired him from the firm. Nova reported his actions to the bar association, resulting in his removal from their registry. I don't know all the details, but apparently, lawyers can't practice without being a member of the bar association. I wonder how my husband will handle all these payments. Well, it's not my concern. Still, he lost the right to use a qualification that took years of difficult study to obtain, all because of this. Maybe he was even more foolish than I was. In any case, my husband will have to pay dearly for what he did to us three women. I hope he reflects deeply on his actions. I moved back to my parents' house, waiting for my arm to heal and preparing to find a new job. I decided to return home because of this incident, so I quit the part-time job I'd had for 3 years. When I went to my parents' house to send my things, Nova came with me and helped me reconcile with my parents. Apparently, they knew all along where I was and what kind of life I was leading. In short, my parents were just waiting for me to wake up on my own. I really was foolish. Since then, Nova, Arya, and I have created a group on WhatsApp and started messaging each other. We're planning to go out for dinner to celebrate my new job. At that time, we plan to laugh about my husband's current situation. It's sad that my marriage turned out to be a sham, but it's also a relief that I don't have a divorce on my record. In any case, my life starts now. I'm going to fully enjoy both my personal life and my career.